Darkness surrounds the final resting place of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Broken into two large pieces, its hull is twisted and torn, with only its front half sitting proudly upright. The Edmund Fitzgerald was once the largest ship on the Great Lakes. That distinction may have set cargo hauling records, but it also may have jinxed the vessel. Like the Titanic, no one thought the Fitzgerald could be sunk. The mighty Fitz met its match in a strong November gale in 1975. Many people believe the ship was overloaded, carrying several tons of iron ore beyond what she was originally built for. Loaded with over 26,000 tons of ore, the Fitz found herself in a bad situation just north of Whitefish Point, where she vanished from radar after telling the freighter Arthur Anderson that they were holding their own in the storm. 2 lifeboats and some small wreckage was all that was ever found from the Fitz. Not a trace of her 29 crewmen were ever found, until 19 years later. Fred Shannon has been studying the Fitz for over a decade, and while he's regarded as the foremost expert on the subject, he still hadn't seen the wreck himself. Resting in Canadian water, it would take Shannon 2 years and thousands of dollars just to get access to the wreck. The Edmund Fitzgerald has been visited by 5 different expeditions. 2 were by unmanned robots, and 3 more were by manned submersibles. The reason that divers don't visit this wreck is because it's extremely deep. Most divers only go to about 130 feet. Fitzgerald is in 500 feet of water, and to get an idea of how deep that is, 500 feet is from the tip of the Mackinac Bridge all the way down to the waters of the Straits of Mackinac. 500 feet of water is no problem for the research submersible Delta. She can handle pressure twice as deep and has experience on famous shipwrecks. Her crew went with explorer Bob Ballard when he studied the wreck of the Lusitania. Seeing the Fitzgerald firsthand was an important part of Shannon's investigation on the maritime disaster, but Fred's first voyage to the bottom wasn't all research. He also set out to beat the unofficial dive record, visiting the wreck site. In all, 7 voyages were made to the Edmund Fitzgerald, recording 14 hours of new footage and nearly 1,000 new still pictures. Fred Shannon had intended to simply honor the area where the sailors had died, a plaque to mark a maritime cemetery that had no headstone. Destiny and a quest to do the best turned up what had eluded dozens of previous searches.
On our last dive of the first day, dive number 4, about 1/3 of the way through the dive, we received word from the sub that a crew member had been located. And of course, this put a completely different twist to our investigation of the Fitzgerald, and the project itself took on a different flavor.
The mystique of Great Lakes shipwrecks sometimes overshadows the fact that many of these vessels are grave sites. The reality of this final resting place affected everyone involved in the expedition. It was just amazing. It had portholes that you just know when you look in there, you know of when disaster happened. You can't help but be touched by it. It's pretty intense. When Fred Shannon submerged for the expedition's last dive, he took with him the plaque that now had even more significance. It was his team that found the first sailor, and while he may have solved part of the lake's mystery, he had also reopened several wounds that many thought had healed.